Dietmar Hopp is a German software engineer and a billionaire businessman. You can see right here that Forbes actually report that Dietmar Hopp and family have a net worth of 4.9 billion. He was one of the co-founders of SAP in 1972 alongside a number of other former employees from IBM. And if you don't know who SAP are, they are a software company floated on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange in Germany, and they have a market cap of around 260 billion, and they're currently trading at 220 euros at the moment. And so Dietmar Hopp is also the owner of a football club in Germany, or a soccer club called Hoffenheim. And after his success with SAP and the technology sector, he actually pivoted out of that and transitioned into the healthcare or biotech industries and set up a holding company called dividend Holding Company, which you can see up on the screen now. And so this holding company basically invests in things like oncology, in life sciences, that kind of thing. And if you go on their website here, dividend.Deutschland, you can see that this section basically just gives you a breakdown of all of their investments, right? Which is a clear indication of kind of the strategy of a billionaire, you know, what he's investing his money in. And so the company that I'm really going to pay attention to in this video is a company called CureVac. Reason being is I like to look at companies in the earlier stages. Why do I want to do that? Because for me, that's the opportunity where you're going to make a lot more money. But I like to go to these early stage companies that have been backed or that have funding from billionaires, because the way that I see it, there's a level of security, there's a level of safety in what can be considered a highly risky investment. And so as you can see, CureVac is trading at $2.50 at the moment. You know, this is one that's on my watch list. You can see from the 6-month mark, it's gradually trickling down. And so if I go on to Simply Wall Street here, you can, again, you know, I always like to do this, is to kind of go and look at the ownership section, which you can see here, right? And so I go down to the ownership section, and you can see here that dividend Biotech Holding is the majority shareholder with 31% stake in this company. And if I scroll down a little bit further, you can also see that Dietmar Hopp holds around 6% as an individual shareholder as well. And when I go down here, you can also see that KfW, asset management arm, are also invested in this stock. And when you go to the CureVac website, it states German federal government invests 300 million euros into CureVac. And you can actually see after the headline, if I just highlight this section here, it states direct equity financing by the federal government is to be made by KfW. And so this basically means that the German government have invested into CureVac via KfW. And it's actually part of a wider initiative in order to establish a greater European presence in the biotech industry, which is largely kind of dominated by US companies. And so looking at CureVac's pipeline, you can see that they have a number of treatments in development with GlaxoSmithKline. They've got a number in the pipeline that are at stage 2, almost ready to be marketed and sold. I previously mentioned that looking at billionaires is one of the first things that I do when I'm looking at biotech stocks, as kind of a marker or an indication. I'm looking at billionaires with a proven track record, who have pedigree, who've done this before. They understand the procedures, they understand the pressures, they understand how to respond to failures, you know, because this is a notoriously difficult industry. In order to be successful, I'm looking at them as a level of insurance. One of the other things I'm looking at, like you can see with this pipeline, is I'm looking for partnerships. This is an indication, you know, it doesn't always happen, but it is an indication of some kind of pedigree, a stamp of approval, if you like, that I'm looking at. You know, they're certified by other reputable biotech or pharmaceutical companies like GlaxoSmithKline, who are a multinational. They're traded on the UK stock market as well, and who have a market cap of around 54 billion at the moment. And so going back to the pricing, you know, I've been kind of trying to figure out with CureVac if they're going to go down. You can see it trickling down. I think one of the things which is kind of slightly different, you know, this is something that I'm trying to figure out at the moment, right, is a good entry point for CureVac. Like I said earlier in this video, typically I'm looking at $1.5, something like that, you know, or below that. In this case, it may be a little bit different. I'm just keeping an eye on this stock and the price. It could be a little bit different simply because of this partnership with GlaxoSmithKline. You know, going back to the pipeline, up to phase 2 is going to be controlled by CureVac. And then at that point, there's almost like a handover, and GlaxoSmithKline will take over the final phase. And it could be that there's something around that that relationship or that kind of situation which is priced into the share price. Just on top of that, GlaxoSmithKline actually hold a 7.4 stake in CureVac as well. So they have a vested interest in the success of CureVac, and they're kind of relying on them for a lot of the initial research and development, a lot of the insights in the initial earlier stages of the development of certain treatments. And so one of the reasons for this relationship, I think, is it's kind of a win-win in a way, you know, from GlaxoSmithKline's point of view. They save money to a degree. They don't have to invest a lot of their team, a lot of their resources into the development. They kind of almost, like, if you like, outsource the first few phases to CureVac, who are kind of specializing in this mRNA treatment. And so GlaxoSmithKline are leveraging their expertise, they're leveraging their platform as a means to kind of almost compete with the likes of Moderna and Pfizer, who are kind of almost the leads in this mRNA treatment at the moment. What it does is it kind of allows GlaxoSmithKline a level of diversification without being fully invested financially in the development. They have this partner, CureVac, who are focusing on that development, and it opens up, you know, GlaxoSmithKline's portfolio, which helps to kind of accelerate the development, the commercialization of these treatments. And so one of the things to look at is that CureVac's cash runway, you can see here that it states that they have less than 1 year of cash runway based on its current free cash flow. And like I've said in previous videos, you know, this is typically a kind of metric that may scare a lot of shareholders away who do not peel back the layers and look at all of the partnerships or look at the parties that are involved in this company. You know, the likes of the German government through the relationship with and funding through KfW, you know, the fact that GlaxoSmithKline are heavily invested in this stock and pretty much relying on CureVac for a number of the deliverables of this. And then fundamentally also finally Dietmar Hopp as well, who's a billionaire with a proven track record, who's got this kind of portfolio of treatments initiatives, got his hand in a number of different pies in the biotech sector, and has this track record, has this expertise, and has a lot of money invested in this stock as well. And so looking at all of the shareholders involved, the likes of Deveni Hop Holding Company, KfW, GlaxoSmithKline, you know, none of these entities are short of money. And as much as it says, you know, on Simply Wall Street, you know, there's a little bit of a warning in terms of cash flow for the next year or so. Fundamentally, you know, if you just envisage that all of these companies could be sitting around a boardroom trying to figure out ways in which they can leverage or raise money, you know, all of these individuals have a range of assets that they can leverage, and they would have a number of different opportunities or options in order to raise more capital for CureVac as well. And so it could be that they offer more shares to the market, you know, that would be one option. I think personally this is something which typically is kind of not super favorable, simply because it dilutes shareholders, and all of these individual entities are shareholders. It's something that perhaps they would not want to do. I mean, it's something that they could potentially do, and in doing so, certainly one of the options that they may have is, if they did decide to issue more shares to the market, is to ensure that those individual parties have the first option to buy those shares at that set price. In doing so, what that would do is it would enable them to maintain their existing percentage holding in CureVac. And so the German government and KfW will likely want to continue bankrolling CureVac's work. It could be that they look for either government-backed loans or other kind of funding, could even be public grants, you know. And I think this is kind of a unique advantage that CureVac have, is because they have this public-private partnership, you know, it's not solely private entities that are involved. They have the opportunity to leverage public resources as well. And then finally with GlaxoSmithKline, you know, fundamentally they're relying on CureVac's platform in order to develop these mRNA treatments. And with that in mind, they're going to want to continue to see success with that. And so if you're interested in the biotech and pharma industries and finding out a little bit more about some of the other billionaires, you know, I've spoken about Patrick Soon Shiong and Immunity Bio, Randall, Kirk and Precigen, and also Phillip and Opko Health. I've made a ton of videos on all of those individuals. You'll find a few of them in the link in the description below. I'll put my best ones there. And naturally, I will keep you posted because the stock market is always changing. My strategies may change based on new information, based on how the stock market changes as well. And like I said, you know, I'll keep you posted on this YouTube channel. But look, thanks very much for watching. Have a great day and see you in the next one. All the best.